Good evening. At this time, we are going to open up the City Council. We have a workshop meeting first before our standard council meeting. This is a workshop meeting for an interview for a board applicant. August 2nd, 2015, approximately 6:55. We're here to interview Paul Rosenberg. Paul, if you would please just come up to the seat here.
Here? There?
Sit down, make yourself at home, please. This will be very fast and painless, I promise you.
Okay.
If you would, just speak into the mic, because we do record, and then just tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll have some questions from the council.
Okay, well, we moved here about 3.5 years ago. I've met almost all of you at a couple of the rallies around election time, so I think I've met all of you, basically. My wife, Joyce Dashenko, worked on the campaign, and stuffed envelopes at Mindy's. We like it here in Satellite Beach, so we both tried to get a little bit more involved in the city. So we're working at the Haven, doing a little volunteer work there. We work on, like I said, on the campaigns, and we're just trying to get a little bit more involved in what's going on. So that's why I'm looking for a seat on the committee.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Well, go ahead.
Minute?
Do you have any committees that are sticking out to you more so than any other, that you feel that you're more qualified for, that you'd want to be on? Or?
Yeah, not really. I looked at them all. I kind of just would like to get started in the city government, if possible, in this limited way. So, no, my background is basically corporate communications and higher education, so none of them directly apply, but I do have a lot of business background, which maybe in the future will have some more bearing on some of the committees.
Thank you.
No, Mindy had my questions, that's fine.
Same thing I was going to ask.
Is there any days of the week, just so we have them noted, that is harder for you to attend the meeting?
No, as long as I know ahead of time. I do still work full-time, but I have my own schedule and can usually change it with no problem.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Paul.
Hi, Dominic.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Hey, we do have an opening on the Sustainability Board, and one thing about getting on a board in Satellite Beach, if you get on a board and you serve on it for a little while and something else comes up that you feel more inclined to move in that direction, that's also available to you. So if the position that's on the Sustainability Board is something that you might be interested in, that's a position we might be able to just slot you into later on this evening when we get to that. So if that's comfortable for you, I would probably be looking at slotting you into that.
Yeah, it's very comfortable.
Okay.
I don't necessarily have a background in that necessarily, like we were just saying, but I'm certainly interested in it, yes.
Good.
Any further questions? Paul, the way it works is towards the end of the meeting, when the last agenda items is reappointments and appointments to boards, you're more than welcome to sit through our meeting. We'll contact you. Lenora will afterwards.
Okay, yeah, tonight I wasn't really aware of that, so I don't think I'll be able to stay tonight, particularly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay. You can end this
Any
meeting.
Courtney?
You're going to ask me to start the meeting?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the City Council of Satellite Beach, August 2nd, 2017, approximately 7 p.m. Please join Councilwoman Gibson for a moment of silence and the pledge.
Please stand for a moment of silence. Now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Council, will you please join me up front here? Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is the fun part right here. out of a tragedy comes a silver lining, and this is our little silver lining. So on the 4th of July, there was a fire in our town, a house burned down. And afterwards, the silver lining, 2 young individuals from our town, community service, raised over $1,000 for the victims of this fire. And they happen to be 2 of the youth of our community. And I think it's pretty incredible where we live, that these people came forward, took the time and effort to help a neighbor in our town. So, Charlie and Jackson, come up here, please. How are you guys doing? Great. How much? 1,000? There it is. Future accountants. So on behalf of the council and our city, this is for an appreciation for your work in raising funds to benefit the Satellite Beach July 4th house fire victim. The city of Satellite Beach thanks you for being an outstanding member of our community. And this is presented to Charlie and Jackson Ward. And thank you guys very, very much. And to their parents, thank you. Incredible job. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, guys. Got to come here, take our picture.
We used to have professional photographers, and then we got cell phones. So now we just do it.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Great job.
Awesome. I've got kids doing there. I just think that's wonderful.
Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. Great job, you guys. Great job.
Pretty close. Very good. You exact 1,020.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
That was good.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item 3, and this is citizens' comments. This is for non-agenda items. So if you're here for an agenda item, please hold your comments till that agenda item. At this time, this is for comments for non-agenda items. The floor is open. Okay, hearing none, back to council, city council comments.
I have none.
Same.
I had some. On the 22nd, Bill Ellis, for those of you who, if you knew Bill Ellis worked with Health First. Prior to that, he was with Port Authority and FP&L. He was a great supporter of cities across Brevard. He passed away. They had a service for him at the King Center, and the place was pretty much packed for service for an individual from our community. It really is a testament to what he did for Brevard County and municipalities here. I also attended the Police and Fire Pension Board meeting on the 25th, and the legislative update that Dean Mead had on the 26th, and yesterday we did 4 hours of ethics training that the state requires that we have, so that's what I did.
Thank you. I also attended the Dean Mead presentation by our local representatives. Any further council comments? Thank you. Moving on to city manager's report. Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. The Sustainability Board is planning the grand opening of the community garden on Saturday, September 9th at 4 p.m. until dusk, and the public is welcome to stop by for a tour, music, food truck, and to join us in celebrating the completion of our first green achievement target as found in the sustainability plan. That's called a ZATGAT, too. The Brevard Zoo is hosting an introductory oyster gardening workshop for new qualified oyster gardeners and oyster buddies at the David R. Schechter Community Center on Wednesday, August 30th from 6 to 8. So there's the number in my report for you to call if you would like more information. And this is not a mat making workshop, but an oyster gardening workshop, which is different, where you actually raise them from little tiny babies, and when they get big enough, you bring them back so they can be put into the
Oysters?
Yes, yes. So you're raising little oysters. And then you have to give them up, which is probably hard for some people. We will be hosting the next Space Coast League of Cities, and we will be hosting that at the Tides Club, thanks to Lenore's hard work in securing that location. So it'll be a great meeting. General Monteith will be also attending. And since it's September 11th, we're trying to plan some decorations and things like that, to commemorate that date. The first day of school is August 10th, so please don't forget that. We'll start the school zones again. It'll take me another 10 minutes to get to work. Yeah, it's so hard. And I received a thank you note from Carol Thompson thanking Officer Hausman for helping her in her stressful time. I also received a thank you note from Lisa Dargy to the Police Department volunteer Dave Ryan for his service at the police station. And Dave Ryan's here. Thank you, Dave. I will be attending a meeting on August 4th that is being hosted by the City of Indian Harbor Beach for the purpose of discussing re-entry procedures for the Barrier Island following storm events. So if any of you are interested in that, I will give you the
Beyond that,
yes.
are the other cities on the Barrier Island going to be at this
All of
meeting?
us will be, yes.
All of us? Okay.
Yeah, we were notified by the Indian Harbor Beach actually is the one that caught that. The sheriff's office was trying to adopt a policy, and we didn't know about it, about how reentry on the beach side after a storm event, so we had to intervene on that to make sure that we're involved.
Is part of what has been in place is that, if elected officials depart the island for a storm, we're able to come back. We want to make sure that we still are able to do that.
Right. It really wasn't whether or not city employees and things like that could get back or elected officials. It was more when we would be opening the bridge and when people could come back into jurisdictions. And since it's our jurisdiction, we thought we'd have some say in that.
Courtney, on that, is our emergency management staff going to be at that meeting too?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I remember the phone call, and Chief, you did a great job on that, trying to organize it, because it was definitely chaos.
And the other thing on that, Courtney, oh, I'm sorry, Frank, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that it's got to be organized, because if our city isn't ready, and they come over Pineda and Harbor's ready.
Well, that's the concern.
The concern was, right.
Right, is that we all want to be on the same page, yes.
And again, when we were going to have Hurricane Floyd, and it was supposed to be a Category 5, and everything was going to be wiped out, one of the issues is we wanted to put in a curfew. And we did put a curfew in. But nobody around us would honor that curfew, including the county. So, so there has to be some...
The policy committee, well, that's the policy committee wanted to, especially after Matthew, wanted a curfew. And we have a policy committee that established these things on an ESC level. And the sheriff's office did not. So sometimes we have those conflicts. But that's what the purpose of these meetings are, is to try to resolve
I don't know
this.
that out. That's good. Okay, thank you.
And the time of that meeting, excuse me?
I'll get that to you. I didn't know if any of you wanted to be there, so I'll be glad to send that over to you.
Is this a publicly noticed meeting where more than 2 of us can be there?
If you would like to be there, I can make that happen.
Okay.
Okay? So just let me know, and we'll make
If
that
you
happen.
let us know what the time is, then I'll know.
Okay. We will be hosting, Satellite Beach will be hosting a meeting on August 10th from 3 to 5 to discuss the Indian River Lagoon interlocal agreement with the Space Coast Management Association and staff involved in the BMAP and stormwater programs, and this is to assign the credits with the lagoon tax. So that's an important meeting, and we'll be hosting that this time. So if you're interested in that, you're welcome to stop by. In September, John Stone, Rochelle Lowendales, and Zachary Eckholtz will be invited to speak at the American Planning Association Florida Chapter Conference on sustainability initiatives that the city has accomplished. So we've been accepted as a proposer at that conference. So we will be there. I'm trying to let my interns, be the predominant presenters there. And since they're here, we have invited the interns tonight to present an update to City Council about the projects we've been working on over the summer. So, take it away.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Zach Eichholz. I'm one of your interns from Florida Institute of Technology. My partner, Asif, unfortunately couldn't be here. He's home on a much-needed vacation in Kenya. But everything I speak about today is stuff that we basically did together. I work under the Sustainability Board with Asif and under Nick as the environmental programs coordinator. He's the environmental programs, but I'm not. And basically, just as a little bit of history, the new Sustainability Action Plan was passed in May of this year, and since then, it's been about implementation of the plan. And as you probably know, it works with the 20 green achievement targets that the plan sets forth that the city will try and undertake. The city government itself will try and undertake within the next 5 years, and there's 20 of those. And those were adapted from the 88 near-term high-priority indicators identified in the Sustainability Assessment Report that was also done by another FIT intern before us, prior to the drafting of the Sustainability Plan. So once the plan was passed, it's about implementation now. So since then, in May, we've done a lot of things. We've started the process of acquiring solar panels on this building, on City Hall, to make it a net zero building. A solar RFP went out on June 21st to over 50 companies, all of which were in Florida, except for one, Solar City, which is based in California, I believe. So yeah, that happened. And also, what OSEV did, using a program called Heloscope, and I actually have these right here if you want to look at them. Heloscope is a public service or a public website that anyone can use to basically scope a solar project for one's building. And OSEV did that with the several structures at Pelican Beach Park, City Hall, the DRS Center, the fire station, and the police department. And the police department was a little unique because that one was designed to have solar carports, since the roof was had materials on it that we couldn't really move, like a radio antenna. But that was done basically as to give the city a baseline for which it could always reference what the program said, so that should there be any future bidders and vendors that want to do projects, we could always reference that material to see how well it stacks up to what the program says. And it does a lot of stuff. It does the generation potential of the array, it does shade analysis for the array, and of course gives you size and whatnot and things to play with. So it's a really cool program. And now that the city has all those benchmarks, we can move forward with other possible solar projects after City Hall. Also about solar, one of the green achievement targets is partnering with a local business to acquire solar panels on their business, and the talks have been started for that local business. Electric Rides, ironically, down the street by the DRS. The business owner there is very nice and very receptive to the possibility of a collaboration with them. So that's very cool. And also, their building is very well suited for solar panels. It faces south at a very good angle, large roof, metal roof, so it's really good. And then, of course, as Courtney said, we have the DeSoto Park Community Garden opening up in September, on September 9th. The Shade House has been completed, basically, right, pretty much? Yeah. The Shade House has been completed for where people can cultivate baby plants until they're ready to be planted into any potential garden beds, of which there are 20. Those beds have been pretty much completed or just need to be moved into place. They were modeled after FIT's community garden, which have so far held up very well. So, you know, if you guys weren't concerned about that, they're holding up, the same design is holding up very well. The fencing is pretty much complete that goes around. There are posts dug into the ground about 2 feet, cemented in, that has a rope going from post to post, so it looks very cool. And then there was also some debris that was cleared that was reused to also increase the aesthetics of that fence. Is it coquina rock? Yes. Yeah, coquina rock boulders, basically, that look very nice, very beachy, very cool. The pathways have been marked, cleared, and one of them has been mulched. The other one has not yet, unless, I don't know if you have. Mulch? We're good to go. It's in the shape of a giant S from the top, ironically, so sustainability, you can see it from the air. And that weaves its way through where the future beds will go. There's 20 of them, 4 by 8 beds, 2 feet high. They're made from wood and corrugated steel. The rainwater collection system has to be put in, which will utilize rainwater captured from the racquetball court over there. And then the Shade House itself has a separate rain barrel system that is collected just through open-top barrels with a screen over it to prevent any bugs from going in. What else? What's the work day for the rain barrels? Oh, yes. Is that August 11th? Yeah, August 11th and August 12th, there will be a work day for anybody that wants to come. The barrels, there'll be 12 of them. They're 55 gallons, the big blue ones. They're going to be placed in a rack system, and they'll fill up. So that'll be pretty cool. And we can hold, how many gallons? There's a lot of...
660 gallons approximately.
Yeah, so we can fill it up in an hour in Florida, so we'll be good. And since this garden was done in collaboration with FIT and was a model for it, we were hoping that they could be considered sister gardens, yours and FIT's. FIT's name is Ethos, which is the characteristic spirit of a community, and so that this community is sustainability and FIT's sustainability. And we were kind of hoping this one would be named Logos. Logos is science, data, which so much you guys strive to push, which is really good. So we're hoping that could possibly be the name. And then maybe in the future there'll be a pathos somewhere. But and then we have the NEP one-pagers. These one-pagers were designed or written after a grant that was won after Nick was able to get that. Thanks, Nick. These one-pagers are easy to distribute to residents. Each of them is a specific project that you guys could be undertaking in the future with collaboration from universities, scientists, other cities, and residents themselves that could be handed out. And each of the eight one-pagers are a Satellite Beach Canal Enhancement Project, Castilla Bioswales, DeSoto Park Kayak Launch, DeSoto Park Bioswale Restoration, Dune Enhancement, Oyster Reefs, Pelican Beach Clubhouse Redesign, and Seagrass Restoration. And some of these tie into the NEP grant that was awarded to the city. And others tie into achieving green achievement targets. Since they are meant to be printed, they were printed with a special font called Ryman Eco that saves up to 30% on ink usage, so that was pretty cool. And speaking of the green achievement targets, the plan was drafted in May, and since then, like I said, there are 20. You guys have so far, over the past 4 months, since the adoption of the plan, there are currently either in progress, nearing completion, or under preliminary review, 7 green achievement targets. So within 4 months, this is a 5-year time scale. It's pretty good. So we're cruising right along. And that's pretty much all I have. Yeah.
You move questions for Zach? Zach, first, thank you very, very much. And for those, the name of Zach just wrote a book.
Yes.
And
Oh, that book, yeah.
The End of the Beginning. If you have a chance, please get it, read it.
I'm already reading it.
Done an
Thank you.
incredible job on it.
Thank you.
Great job, and thank you for all your work you do.
Thank you.
with us.
It's a
24 years
pleasure.
old and wrote a book.
Thank you. It's available on Lulu. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
I just want to thank Alexandra and Joanna and Zach for the time that you put in here this summer. I know the city really appreciates it. I don't think the residents understand, how much time you all put in here doing this stuff. So as you go off to school, good luck. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for everything.
Hi, Council. I'm Alexandra Young. I am an accounting major at FSU. I'll be a senior this upcoming fall. This summer, I worked on a variety of different projects. The most prominent one throughout the summer was utility audits. I looked at our usage, our electricity, our water, our sewer, and our internet to make sure our costs were consistent and to make sure that there weren't any spikes that maintained the high cost. And actually, every time we looked at it, every utility, even though there were scheduled rate upcharges, Satellite Beach was able to maintain their use and even lower it in most cases. So I would like to thank the sustainability projects that we have going on, because most of it happened right around the time it started becoming implemented into the city itself. And it was an amazing thing to look at. Another project I worked on was looking at our budget presentation from fiscal year 16-17 and looking at how the GFOA rated our budget presentation itself. And I actually got to both analyze and propose solutions for any issues they came up with, which wasn't a lot, and help implement them into the new budget presentation that, is it this week or is it? Or was it last week that we did? Yes. I was actually at that meeting too, but I wasn't able to stay quite for all of it. But I got to watch as that came to fruition. I actually got a copy. That's really cool. As well, I also worked on digitizing some forms for the accounting department, like a travel form, travel expense reimbursement form. And I recently did a new application for tuition reimbursement for the city now, because prior to this week, actually, we didn't have any way to notify our city accountants or comptroller that someone was going to need tuition reimbursement. At the end of the semester, they would just submit the request, so we had no way to know ahead of time to make sure we had that money available. But now we do, and now it'll help us budget more efficiently and properly, and it'll make sure nothing surprises us throughout the year. I would like to thank council and especially the city manager and assistant city manager Suzanne. Courtney and Suzanne have been amazing. So is the comptroller Britton. It's been a wonderful opportunity working for the city this summer, and I'm extremely grateful that I had the chance to. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for your hard work.
Thank you.
It really helps.
And she came at the best time, because we did change comptrollers right before budget. And then also she comes from FSU, so, I mean.
It's true, I did. Go Knowles.
Right.
Great. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. I'm Joanne Latour, and this is actually my second summer I spent serving as an intern for the city of Satellite Beach, and I can honestly say I enjoyed every second of it. This summer, I had the opportunity to help create different things and work on various projects. I helped create a brochure for new Satellite Beach residents. I got to work with Allie on the yearly budget, utility audits. I worked with Asav on the solar panel evaluation sheet, and I got to design a sustainability certification program for local businesses. So first, I will talk to you about the brochure for new residents. I'm going to have a copy for everyone. Well, not everyone, but City Council.
Thank you.
And then for the audience to see, this is sort of the design of it. Yeah. So I will sort of run you through what the brochure has. I have a sticky note here. So it includes city department functions and services with phone numbers and addresses. It includes things to do, places to go. It includes a description of sustainable satellites, since that is a very big part of our identity, I guess, at Satellite Beach. I think we're very eco-friendly. And there also is a section for frequently asked questions, so in case people don't feel like going to the website, they can just look on the back of this. And it has some schools listed with ratings and phone numbers and addresses in case anyone is moving to the area with children. It also has pictures and titles of the current city council members. And there is a map, I'll show you, on the back of the brochure that has the main, I guess, city departments and buildings. Right, okay. So yeah, that was really fun to design. Everything is a picture from Florida, and most of them are actually from Satellite Beach, so it was really cool to see all those colors and pictures come together. I will next talk about the sustainability business challenge. So the title is up for change. It can be changed, but it's right now called the Sustainable Business Challenge. And I have these certificates for businesses who choose to work towards it, and I have a copy for everyone.
Thank you.
So again, for the audience to see, this is what it looks like, and I will explain it. So, actually, there's this too. So the Sustainable Business Project is a project for local businesses to complete various activities and work towards running their businesses more sustainable and being more eco-friendly with daily activities. A lot of times you'll see programs encouraging individuals at home in their daily activities to be more eco-friendly, but when you think about what they're doing outside of their home and businesses, you don't really see as much of the eco-friendly practices going on. So I think when we're targeting all areas of life, it will really move things along, get us further to where we want to be. So businesses can complete a list of activities. There's a checklist with activities equal to different points. So the points will add up and come to equal various amounts. How do I say this? There are different levels of certificates that the businesses can earn. And if they participate, I'm hoping we can give them recognition, some benefits and whatnot. So it'll benefit not only us and with our goals to reduce energy, but it will also help businesses gain recognition and run more sustainably. And it can also sort of provide an incentive and competitive spirit among businesses if they see that other businesses are doing this, and it sets a goal for them to reach. A lot of businesses like having those to strive for. So yeah, there are different tiers. There's a regular certified green business certificate that they can earn, and then it moves up to bronze, silver, gold, and then platinum. And the activities are listed. The form for businesses to fill out is actually what I handed you. It's on Google Sheets or Google Forms. And I like the way it is set up because it's linked to an Excel sheet. So all of the responses that businesses enter will be shown on the Excel sheet and then converted to points. So it's easy for us to see how many points they've accumulated and what certificate they have earned. And after doing this, I worked with Asav to create the solar panel evaluation form, which is very similar to the Sustainable Business Challenge checklist. Very similar setup. It's linked to an Excel sheet, so the points can easily be viewed and compared. And I had a very fun time creating all of these for the City of Satellite Beach, and I want to thank you all for allowing me to have this opportunity.
Thank you very, very much. Incredible amount of work all the interns did.
I have to say, this is what Joanna was working on was really initiative of Councilwoman Gibson, and she wanted this done this year, and I was like, you know, without Joanna, we wouldn't have it done this year. So she's done an incredible amount of work in a pretty short amount of time. And Joanna has been accepted to many schools. And she got into FSU, and she got into Cornell. Incredibly, she picked Cornell. So she'll be taking off coming up later this month, right? Yeah. And then hopefully we'll get her back every summer. We'll cross our fingers.
What's your major going to be?
I am majoring in applied economics and management in the undergraduate business school. Thank you.
I keep telling her that when she's the president in the future, I'll be able to point to her and say she was my intern. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Courtney, you still on?
That's it. That's all I have.
Questions for City Manager? Thank you, Courtney. Move on at this time to Agenda Item 7, discuss take action on the results of request for proposal for property and casualty insurance.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff is asking your approval of the award with request for proposals number 1617-06 for property and casualty insurance and risk management services to Brown & Brown of Florida, Inc. As you know, as part of our endeavor to always keep costs down and, you know, make sure that we're always staying competitive and getting competitive prices, we bid out our major services and contracts every 3 to 4 years, and this came up this year to rebid out our liability insurance, and we did so on June 16th. We solicited proposals from qualified firms. We received 3 responses from Florida League of Cities, First Florida Insurance Brokers, and Brown & Brown of Florida. We are recommending the award go to Brown & Brown of Florida. They received a score of 93.5 out of 100, while the other 2 received 90 or below. I did want to make sure that you know that we are saving $45,786.20 with the rebidding of this service.
Great. Thank you, staff. Discussion from council.
Motion to approve Brown & Brown.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Brown, a second by Councilman Montanaro. Questions? This time, open up agenda item 7 for public comment. Hearing none, back to council. Any further?
I just want to thank staff for doing a great job, and, you've consistently looked at different things that are lowering the costs for all of us. So, thank you, and staff for doing it.
Further? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, staff. Moving on to agenda number 8, discuss take action on resolution 988. Jim?
Resolution number 988, a resolution of the City of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, imposing an annual stormwater utility assessment for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2017, against all real property within the city limits of Satellite Beach, Brevard County, Florida, providing for classifications of property, providing for certification of annual stormwater utility assessment roll, providing an effective date. It's a reading of resolution number 988.
Thank you. Questions from council?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 988.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by
Steve?
Vice Mayor Osmer. Further discussion from council? At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 8. Hearing none, back to council. Further discussion? Hearing none. Lenore?
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Staff, thank you very much. Moving on to agenda number 9, discuss take action on approval of the Montecito Phase 2C Final Development Plan. John?
Good evening. On August 5th, 2016, the City Council approved the preliminary development plan for Phase 2C of Montecito. The plan was for 25 sixplexes, equating to 150 townhomes. Approximately a year later, here we are. They've completed the infrastructure, and essentially the as-built concurrencies is what's being provided as the required final development plan. With me tonight, I have the engineer record, Dave Lavender, as well as Chip Jones representing the developer, if there's any questions for us.
Questions from council? It meets everything, John?
It's been reviewed by the city engineer and staff, and we believe that it does meet all requirements of the code.
Thank you.
Motion to approve Montecito Phase 2C Final Development Plan.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Vice Mayor Osmer. At this time, open up agenda item 9 for public comment. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Any further discussion from council?
I would just like to say, I like the big pictures. So much easier to see, so much easier to read. I know it's probably not as convenient as putting them in the little book, but, I mean, you had to get a magnifying glass out before to try to see it, so.
You wouldn't want it down on 8.5 by 11.
I know, so I do appreciate that. It does make it much easier to review and look at, so thank you for that part.
Thank you. Any further? More?
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, staff. Going on to agenda item 10, discuss take action on approval of the Montecito Phase 2 subdivision final plat.
Okay, this follows the previous agenda item. There's a requirement of code, the final plat and the final subdivision plan are to be submitted together, separate motions but concurrently. And so this basically is the plat for that same subdivision, Phase 2C. And again, Chip Jones and Dave Lavender are here for questions, if any.
Thank you.
Motion to approve Phase 2C final plat.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Breimer, second by Councilwoman Gibson. Discussion from council? Hearing none, at this time I'll open up for public comment on agenda item 10. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Discussion? Courtney? Oh, excuse me. Lenore?
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, sorry. Thank you. Staff, thank you very much.
Great job, thanks.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 11, discuss take action on a recommendation on recreation vehicles code amendments. There seems to be a lot of people in the audience on this. I'm going to tell you the citizens' comments. I will be limited to 3 minutes the way we normally do, and I will be kept track of it. We will not allow it to go over, so we can control the number of people who would like to come and speak. Okay, at this time, Courtney?
Thank you, Mayor. On April 24th, 2017, the City Council held a workshop, as you recall, to discuss the code enforcement process and policies relating to recreational vehicles. The workshop was scheduled to address the concerns of the council member regarding the desire for proactive code enforcement in the city. The staff has numerous concerns regarding proactive code enforcement, specifically relating to staff time and public perception. In attempting to create a compromise, we did propose some changes to the recreational vehicle storage requirements, which allowing some small recreational vehicles to be stored in the front of the driveway. Since that meeting, staff and city council members have gained input from the community, and staff believes that the proposed code changes should be revised to keep the current requirements intact with some small-scale amendments. And I'm going to go through those real quick. We would like to amend the title and reference in the code that refers to boats, recreational vehicles, and trailers, rather than using recreational vehicles as an umbrella term for all boats, campers, RVs, and trailers. When we were discussing this with many community members, when we say RVs, a lot of community members think that we're talking about campers. And we're, as a city, speaking about the umbrella term of all trailers, jet skis on a trailer, boats on a trailer, you know, and storage trailers. So we wanted to make sure that we changed, in a lot of other codes of cities, in other cities, they refer to this section of the code as boats, RVs, and trailers. And so we would like to change that so people understand what we're talking about when we refer to that. And so in any discussion, we will be using the term boats, RVs, and trailers. When we say RVs, we're talking about campers from now on, okay? We recommend that allowing the trailer hitch to not be counted as part of the portion of the vehicle that needs to be behind the front setback. A lot of people are able to put their boat or RV on the side of their home, and if they can get it behind the home in front of the fence, a lot of times the tongue of the trailer sticks out, and sometimes we'll get called out to that, and we feel a little ridiculous in enforcing that. So we would propose to allow that to stick out. It doesn't seem like there's a big visual impact with that issue, and it would assist a lot of the boat and recreational vehicle owners. We would recommend extending the loading times and days for boats and recreational vehicles. This seemed to be a universal request, and there seemed to be no issue for people who didn't want to see the boats, RVs, and trailers. They did see that it would be nice to allow them to have a longer loading time. This is somewhat unrelated to boats, RVs, and trailers, but we've gotten a lot of requests for this issue, and we've also got an issue regarding our infrastructure, is when people park on the front yard of their grass and they drive over the sidewalk to get there. We end up having to repair those sidewalks quite a bit. If we ever notice a vehicle or a house that allows that over and over and over again, we end up having to take out that sidewalk and replace it. So we would recommend prohibiting parking on the front yard of residential homes unless it's on the driveway. We would recommend prohibiting RVs, and when I say RVs, I mean campers, from being parked at a commercial business unless they are related to the commercial business. We would also recommend allowing a landscape buffer to be used in lieu of an opaque fence for screening requirements on side yards. We do that now, but it's not really written, so we would recommend that we put that in the code and make sure that that's clear in the code. With that, we would recommend, because there's some language deliberation and things like that that need to be done, we would recommend sending this to the Planning and Zoning Commission and allow the staff to work with the Planning and Zoning Commission and maybe put some more minds to the issue and craft the language to bring that back to you at a later date in actually the form of the ordinances. We also recommend that we be allowed to use education and door hangers to enforce the code rather than proactive code enforcement. We believe this strategy will maintain community standards while preserving the great relationship the city has with our community residents. So we're recommending that these concepts be sent to the Planning and Zoning Board for development.
Thank you very, very much. Council discussion.
Well, it's, I was the council member who really was behind a lot of what has come out of this, and I'm very comfortable with where we are now, because I said at the first meeting, I thought we had a very good code in place, and I think, that the city had probably, through different things that had happened over the years, allowed some things to happen in our city that kind of got out of hand. I'm very comfortable with where we are right now, with what's being proposed, because in reality, it keeps the boats, trailers, RVs out of the driveways. We're making some provisions for different things that actually John and I and Courtney discussed prior to the first meeting, that are now incorporated into staff's recommendations. So I think I'm comfortable where we're going. As far as amending the language, I think we just need to be very careful and make sure we include everything, because the one thing that we don't include, somebody's going to park out there. So, I like RVs, but I also understand the confusion that comes with RVs. But I just want to make sure that when we send this to P&Z, whatever terminology y'all can come up with, to make sure that we're not leaving a loophole here that somebody's going to come back and we have to come back to this and revisit it and change it again to include whatever it is that might come out of the woodwork.
Right.
So,
And I just want to make sure that people understand that when we say that we want to refer to them as boats, RVs, and trailers, this is not some backhanded way of staff inserting a different definition for boats, RVs, and trailers. All we want to do is change the way we refer to them so people understand that it's boats, RVs, and trailers, and not just recreational vehicle campers. That's it.
whatever we need to do to
All kinds of conspiracies going on. So
I mean,
make
I think we need to make sure that everything that we can think of is in there, because if we don't put it in there, then it's misconstrued as, well, I can park this there. So,
And that's why I think
We had that
the
discussion.
P&Z is a good group,
Yes.
because they think of things that we sometimes don't think of, and that's why we want to put more minds to the problem. And that's what they're there for, is they help us with these codes.
And we went today and we talked about that concerning a kayak that has no motor. Is that a boat? Is a paddleboard now a boat going to be left in the front yard? So I think, getting them to define it in the language, I think will clear it up for everybody.
And I think the current definition provides for that distinction, but, we'll ask them to look at that.
And go ahead.
And even at that meeting, I was looking at education as, some place that we really needed to go. So I'm really grateful that this is the avenue that we're taking, because I said at that meeting, we didn't need to be the Gestapo, and that's not what we were looking for. We were looking to educate our residents, because over those years, we had a multitude of people that moved into our community that just didn't understand what the code was. And, I think by doing what we're talking about doing here, we're going to get everybody up to speed. And this is the same thing that happened 22 years ago when this ordinance went into effect. Everybody knew what was going on because it was very public knowledge, and we gave people 5 years to comply before this ordinance came into play. So we're doing the same thing with education now, the same way that we did before. We're not giving you 5 years, but we're at least letting you know what the codes are and what's expected of you as a resident. And I think that's the direction that is going to make a difference in how we're perceived.
The extension of loading times, days of boats and so forth, is possibly looking at that Friday to
Yes.
Monday timeframe when
Yeah.
people could use it.
That would be the easiest way for us to enforce. When we add days, it's another trip that we have to make out to the property, so that, but I also want to make sure that we all understand, when we say reactive code enforcement, what that means is we don't have a position or dedicated hours for proactive code enforcement. What we do is we prioritize building inspections, then we prioritize code enforcement complaints. And if we see something egregious while we're driving and we have time to address that, we will. If we see a public safety issue, we will always address that. And if we have time left over in the day, which is sometimes rare, we will go out and proactively look at issues. But what we don't have is dedicated code enforcement, proactive enforcement hours that our staff has. So I just want to make sure people understand that. So if you see us drive by one, it's not because we don't care, it's probably because they have an inspection appointment, or they have another issue that they're on the road doing.
But we're going to be reactive to the public calling.
Correct. If the public calls in, we will go visit that property. And we take anonymous complaints.
Thank you. Further discussion from council here at this time? Okay.
I just wanted to say one thing, like, I think the parking on the yard addition to that was huge, because a lot of the people that I wanted to say the parking in the yard part was something that I spoke with several residents, and even more to them than the boats and the RVs and all that was people with multiple cars parked in the yard, because for aesthetics, and I think that looks a lot worse than a boat, for example. So I think that's something that we really need to take care of and look at for infrastructure, and also just for the sheer fact that you don't want a bunch of cars in your front yard, or your neighbor's front yard. So.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to council for further discussion. At this time, I'll open it up for public comment. Please remember, I'm going to be limited it to the 3 minutes. Podium's open. Back of the room, please. Flip, come on.
You've covered a lot of things. My name is Sarah Schaefer, and I've been a resident at 308 Glenwood for 21 years. After reading the data from the April 24th workshop, it seems that the ability of the Code Enforcement Office to actually enforce the code is handicapped by its own process and procedures. I'd like to think that people want to follow rules if they know what the rules are. Ms. Barker, at one of the town hall meetings in May, you recommended providing a welcome packet for newcomers. It's a great idea, and we could include a good-natured one-page list of our most irritating and time-consuming code issues. My newest neighbors were leaving their trash cans in the street for days at a time. I gave them a copy of the Waste Management's dates for pickup, etc., and since then it's been okay. That same friendly little informational one-pager for newcomers could be left at their door or given to the homeowner if a violation is observed by the code officer. That might cure some of the problems. This would be a huge step up from the 5x7 yellow cards, which we used to receive in earlier days. Some of my neighbors are convinced there is a man who walks down Glenwood and reports everything. They talk about him as if he, the invisible messenger, is the problem, not compliance with the code. Maybe the code enforcement officer could just say he or she has observed an infraction, and that could eliminate the guessing game and finger pointing the neighbors love to get into. This leads me to the anonymous thing. A former neighbor at the back side of my house used to let his dog out at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it would howl and bark every night. His next-door neighbors had had problems with him, so I didn't feel comfortable approaching him. Chief Cody advised me to make an anonymous call to the police department when the dog was howling. I did. A car would be dispatched, and then the dog would be quiet. We figured the neighbor had a police scanner. One day, his wife came to my door with a printout of all my calls. So much for anonymous. Thank you for this time. I hope you will consider streamlining the process for our code enforcement officers so they can do their job without cumbersome procedures. I support proactive enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is open still.
Hi, I'm Kurt Kivik. I've been a Satellite Beach resident since 1962. I just had a couple of comments here. I mean, I see what adjustments that you're currently trying to make to the code, and I was here during the last meeting. my comments, the existing code, I thought, was thoughtfully, diligently researched, debated, and approved by the majority of the city council. So I'm with you on that, that we've, it was a hard thing to get done. I would suggest that we're now at this point because the city needs a code enforcement plan. That's what they lack, is a code enforcement plan. Over the years, the city has intentionally set out to make our environment a more pedestrian-friendly place by amending codes to require sidewalks in new developments, adding sidewalks to A1A, South Patrick Drive, and to other high pedestrian school traffic areas in the city. Allowing parking of trailers, boats, recreational vehicles, and driveways will work against the goal of being a pedestrian-friendly city by pushing more parked vehicles into the streets and across the sidewalks. So that's why I don't want to see that changed at all. This creates a greater parking enforcement problem for the city that's currently facing with the existing code, while making our city a more dangerous place for pedestrians, young and old. In many cities, the police will proactively issue citations for parking across the sidewalk or trailers in the streets. Our city, for some reason, I don't think allows that, and I'm not sure why. I'm not in favor of amending the code to something that the city will also not be able or willing to enforce proactively. The concept of code enforcement based solely on the reaction of citizens ratting out their friends and neighbors is not what we pay taxes for. I'm old enough to remember that it was the methodology of many authoritarian post-war governments to employ the citizenry to turn in their countrymen for offenses against the state. Who wants to be a part of that scheme? I know I don't. It's not nice, and it's not fair to put us into that position. I have no desire for Satellite Beach to be like other cities, with our vast oceanfront parks, sports and community facilities, excellent police and fire and life-saving staff. Satellite Beach has never strived to be just like another city. And I conclude with this thought: without proactive enforcement, there is no point in changing the existing code. We would be swapping one unenforced code for another that would be potentially even more burdensome to enforce. Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is open.
Good evening. My name is Tom Kirk. I'm a resident of Satellite Beach, and I appreciate the direction that the city is taking in this regard. I think it's heading in the right direction. I just want to follow up. I think you said, Mayor, the extension from 72 hours is to, what's the suggestion that you think they'll end up with?
We were looking at from Monday through Friday, allowing loading and unloading during those periods of time. Friday through Monday, I'm sorry. Yeah, Friday through Monday, yeah.
Friday noon.
That's a big
Monday
distinction.
noon.
Okay.
The idea was that was the time that most people were bringing boats home if it's stored someplace else. They
Right.
could use them. I've had, citizens ask me that. Can't we use them over the weekends as long as they're gone on Monday? The other thing is, from an enforcement standpoint, we're not there on the weekends.
Except
Yeah,
the police.
that's reasonable,
So
certainly.
we were trying to make it a little more reasonable that people could use them during that time, but we know darn well we don't want them out in people's yards.
Sure. I think it's a great idea also just to share the information with the citizens, whatever the new rules end up being. I think that'll go a long way. Since that April meeting, I had 2 violations on my street of neighbors, and I didn't have kind of, the reactive code enforcement thing. I decided to do the neighborly thing and knock on their door and say, hey, I noticed your trailer here, and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind moving it. And just asked them. And they weren't necessarily sure what the rules were, because there's a little confusion, I think, and they said, sure, be happy to. So we don't have to turn in our neighbors sometimes, just have to talk to them. And once people know what the rules are, I'm finding to be very, very accommodating. Thank you.
Thanks, I appreciate you.
Dave Ryan, resident of Satellite Beach. I was prepared with a speech, and you shredded all my arguments. I like it. All I have to say is, wow, that's excellent. And I think that what you're proposing is very reasonable. I would like to add, though, that I do support proactive enforcement. I think that's the only way you're going to get the job done.
All right. Doesn't.
Good evening, Bobby McCarthy, resident Satellite Beach. The one thing that I have a recreational vehicle, and I have been politely informed of breaking the rule for leaving it out front. As a family, what I would like for you guys to think about for loading during the week, when I have to fire it up and pack it in, it takes a minimum of 2 days to load in before we roll out, so.
You have 3.
Weekends, but when I come back, it's another 2 days, so I do have some of those neighbors that know about the 3 days, and they're quick to the call. So I'd just like you guys to take that into consideration, because we don't always travel on weekends.
Right.
Thanks.
Larry, and then
Larry Whitney, Satellite Beach. First, I'd like to commend the group for coming up with nice compromises about how to try to satisfy the larger group of the population, because I know that's not easy. Everybody has a place they want to be with this thing. I, along with other people in this audience, feel strongly about proactive enforcement. For some reason, there are others that feel that reactive would be, I don't know if it's better, less expensive. I'm not sure what the agenda is there. And I'm not trying to have that discussion here. What I would like to see, though, with these new guidelines going in, what I would like to see is some way of us on an ongoing basis measuring success. And to me, the way I think about it, is you have to set up the appropriate metric to understand if your process is working. If reactive is working, that's great. But if it's not, I think we need to do other things as we move forward in time to see how that would work better. And the way I would set up the metric is I would have code enforcement people go out. You don't have to talk to anybody. You just need to go out and document all the different things that are wrong and compare that to the amount of phone calls you're getting. So if you find 100 violations and you have 3 calls, we now have a set of criteria. We have some data, some information we can look at. And what you'd expect to see on a weekly, a monthly, however you want to measure it, on an ongoing basis, you would like to see the number of violations going down and the number of calls going down, and you want to see that ratio be healthier. Because just accepting, well, we're not getting any calls is not really the metric to determine whether that's functional or not. So with all of that said, reactive, maybe that's the way the city council is going to go, but I would really ask that we find some way to measure whether that's successful or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Cook. I'm a Satellite Beach resident, and I would just like to get a little bit more clarification on the time extension. How would you impede on holidays? So if we had a holiday, would it go till Tuesday, or would you add a day for the extension on holidays?
One of the talks I had with the city manager was to include this Friday to Monday or the day after a holiday, so that it seems to me people use it on holidays, weekends. So it would give the ability to use it on the 4th of July if it fell in the middle of the week. That was just a suggestion
Just clarification. And those are the things that will provide Planning and Zoning Commission, some of the ideas and issues that, you're going to have holidays that fall into these, timeframes that people are going to use them more. So, do you want to consider that and things like that? So, yeah, we'll provide all that to them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none? You're ready?
Matt White, Satellite Beach. First of all, the job that the interns are doing is absolutely phenomenal. Nice work. That was a great report. So I think it's great that where we were from April 24th and where we are now, I think it was a wise move to leave things as it relates to the code intact. And it's a little bit difficult to process the rationale for going reactive as opposed to proactive due to the concern that the city has for how it's perceived. I think that there are ways to proactively enforce rules and boundaries without putting off a perception that you're strong-arming or whatever it was. Gestapo is a term that was thrown around during April 24th meeting, and it doesn't have to be that way. So some things to consider with reactive enforcement. Violations go unaddressed from lack of complaints. Violations often become unbearable and extreme before a complaint is actually made. False perceptions that violations are actually tolerated. These are bullet points that came directly from the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. Because it's complaint driven only, there is no real hierarchy for major versus minor violations. And it sounds like that might have been an important aspect when we were being introduced to this plan. Inconsistency in enforcement is also a problem with reactive. So the city has a budget. The city has the ability to appropriate their funds, and putting the burden of code enforcement on the shoulders of every resident of the town, I don't think is necessarily a fair thing. And not for nothing, but I talked to a couple of code enforcement officers in different towns, and 100% of them said that enforcing code violations associated with vehicles that are parked wrong is an absolutely simple, no-brainer, requires no paperwork, requires virtually no work at all other than go let the person know that they're in violation. Doesn't require evidence, gathering. So, sounds like you got a handful of people here that are...
Your time is, the buzzer just went off, so if you
Okay.
can wrap. Thank you.
Sounds like you got quite a few people here that would be interested in seeing proactive, and I hope that you'll consider that when it comes to vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further comment?
My name's Jeff Bernard. I live at Kentwood Court, Satellite Beach resident. You guys are trying to figure out a way to proactively enforce this, but you're saying you don't have the manpower or the staff to do it. You just recently graduated, I don't know how many COPs, the Citizens on Patrols. Why don't you utilize them to go around and do code enforcement? I mean, it's not like they can't go out and educate people. I mean, put a flyer on the door, knock on the door, say, hey, you're in violation, here's the code ordinance, just make sure you're in check. I mean, that's what they're there for. I mean, they drive up and down the canals and wave to people on the boats, wrecking the boats every other weekend. I mean, something about like, you know what I'm talking about. They've crashed a few boats, but that's besides the point. But use your resources you have on hand. Use the Citizens on Patrols. I mean, it's just a suggestion, so that's all I got to say. I got a boat, 2 boats, and an RV, and I don't have a problem with the ordinance. So I like the ordinance. Let's keep it in place.
Thank you. Any further? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment. Let me address proactive and reactive as the way I think Courtney has explained it to me and John and so forth.
Well, I think there needs to be some distinction, because there's opinion that that the only impediment here is a budget issue, and I just want to make sure.
And we do both. We proactive. If they drive around and they see a problem, they address it. They're not driving around every single street 24 hours a day looking in people's side yards and this. They might miss one here or there, or they're not in that part of the neighborhood, they don't have to be in that. So they're not dedicating a person to drive around the job from the time they get here at 8:30 in the morning to 4:30, checking every single house. If they see it, they do something about it. If they don't, and somebody calls in, then that's a reactive one. But we do both, and they have for quite a number of years. It's not that they have the time to go out on every single day and dedicate somebody to the streets. I believe using somebody that's not trained to be a code enforcement, you can't do it. It's going to be a problem. I know Courtney can address that better because people came to me and said, use volunteers. I think it's a lot more difficult than you, I know it doesn't sound that way, but it is. Courtney, I know you can address that, about what it takes to do code enforcement.
That's it, and that's the, some of the issue I have with some of the comments. John Stone is certified in code enforcement as well, so am I. I've managed a code enforcement department for 15 years in my career, and I can tell you that the issue of proactive code enforcement has spanned every city that I've ever worked in. There are very few cities that actually hire people that their sole purpose is to drive around and do proactive code enforcement. Most cities have a code enforcement department that's built on a complaint-based system, and if they have extra time, then they will do proactive code enforcement, which is exactly what we do here in the city of Satellite Beach. So we are no different than many cities. You could go over to Indian Harbor, they'll do the same thing. You can go over to Indian Atlantic, and they will do the same thing. So if you call them up and say, do you have a code enforcement person whose dedicated hours is to specifically drive around and proactively look at the city and pick out code violations of your residents, you will probably get an answer of no. And it's the way you ask the question. To enforce a parking violation is a different question than enforcing the storage of a recreational vehicle on a property. We allow recreational vehicles to be stored for 72 hours on a property. So we have to go and visit that property every day for 72 hours to make sure it goes out of violation, or it goes into violation, I'm sorry. So that's different than having somebody park over a sidewalk. Yes, you can walk up and take care of that right there. And many of our police officers do that. When they see that, they don't even need a call to do that. But when we have recreational vehicles, that's a different matter. The COP volunteers, we have discussed asking them to look at giving us information about violations, and sometimes they'll do that, particularly for very overgrown lawns, especially public safety issues, but they are not code officers. They don't know how to approach people. If they get somebody mad, they are volunteers, and people get very angry, more than you think, when you walk up and tell them that the city is here to tell them that they're upset with something that they're doing on their private property. And that happens in every city. There's no different. We are no different than any other city in that manner. So yes, you can do it nicely. We do it nicely. We're very good at it, I think. We're very good at being nice. But there's still some people that have a problem even when we're nice. So I want to make sure that people understand that. When we talk about proactive code enforcement in this sense, we're saying that we are going to add hours for one person to drive around the city and pick out violations of our residents. And I just don't think that's an appropriate way for our city to implement code enforcement.
And the number of, John, complaints for this is less than 0.5%. So most of the people went, I think you drove around the other day and you found.
Well, we stopped since the workshop, we quit doing any proactive code enforcement, because we wanted to see what the result would have been. And we drove around today and found very few violations. Most of them were very small trailers with jet skis, things like that. But what we did collect is data when people call in. It's different with recreational vehicles because we have people that drive around and call in multiple violations of different homes throughout the city. So that to me is a different person than somebody who is upset with their neighbor, who's storing a vehicle down the street from their home. In the last 30 days, we've had 13 complaints. 3 of those complaints dropped off because they weren't really violations, because somebody just pulled in their recreational vehicle for 24 hours and they pulled it back out and went and stored it. So 10 of those were actually violations. 4 of those were called in by one person, 4 of those were called in by another person, and 2 of those were called in by another person. So there's not a person calling in about their neighbor. It's one person driving around and calling them about multiple violations. And that actually occurred with my neighbors, where, we have a neighbor who has a large recreational vehicle. She's had that vehicle for 5 years. I know every neighbor on my street, every single one of them. And she's never had code enforcement visit her about her RV. But she pulled it in, and an hour later, the police got a call. They went anonymously, and they said that she was blocking the sidewalk. And what was interesting was, if you lived there, and you lived on my street, you would know that that sidewalk ended at the house, and that the kids that were walking down the street had to, because there weren't sidewalks in that area. And so, that to me means that people are driving around and calling in on other people, and they don't live there. So, and I think that has, in large part, because of this issue being, in the community, and people are reacting. So, so I don't think we're getting the level of complaints that we, think we are. And I think that we can do a lot with education and putting that. I think that's a great idea. What Ms. Schaefer said about putting together the information sheet for our new residents and things like that, and actually maybe even using that as a way to leave the information for someone who may be in violation and make sure they understand.
I think this is a big enough issue now that the Beachcaster, when we do it, it might warrant an article clarifying that. That way, everybody gets it, not just one, a new person that moves here.
Right.
So.
Can I just address that one thing you just said? Because that incident did happen to one of my neighbors, and I recall a few issues back, we actually had a thing talking about vehicles parking or blocking sidewalks. And we had a picture, it was a picture of a pickup truck that was actually blocking it. I actually had a copy of that, and a few neighbors down from mine, new neighbors, that had just bought a house, had moved in, and I carried over that copy of the Beachcaster and said, just to let you know, this is one of the rules that we have in the city, here's the article, and handed it to them. And they were very nice, very receptive. We didn't know, but I think that's where you just said the Beachcaster came in a great way, because we know every resident in the city gets a copy of it. So you can't say, I didn't know. First of all, everybody knows. So even if you took not maybe just RVs or different issues at the time and keep adding them to the Beachcaster so that they do go out to people so that we can educate to that point. I think, like I said, I thought that was great. I actually used it. I've heard other people use the same case to that.
In previous cities that I worked in and code departments, we would have a sheet that said common code violations and would have like a little picture that described it so people understood what we were talking about, and then with an X, and then one that was in compliance with the, a star, and it was a real easy graphic for people to understand. So we can put something like that together. I think it's a great idea.
Public comments still open?
Public is not open.
I just, I'm glad that we're moving down this path that we're moving in. I think a lot of, what's happened in our city happened because people are only out there from 8 to 4:30. And new people moved in, and they had businesses, whether they were lawn service businesses or they were painters, and they had utility trailers. And things get parked in the evening that we never see as code enforcement because we're not out there. So I'm hoping that when we go to P&Z, we can come up with some kind of mechanisms where we can identify those scenarios so that we can send out a nice letter or get a copy of the Beachcaster to them, because that will still go on. So we're going to be counting on residents, or we're going to be counting on some kind of mechanism that we can come up with that's going to figure out how we address that. Because unless we figure out how to address that, this never goes away. It goes away between 8 and 4:30. And then after that, it continues to happen. So I'm looking forward to figure out how we move forward to address that.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to, so moved. A motion by Councilman Brimer. Do I have a second?
Second.
To have a second by Vice Mayor Osmer. Any further discussion?
I would just like, one other comment kind of on this line is, I've only been here since 2001, living here in Satellite Beach. So I've only been here 16 years. I haven't been, as some of these people have been here since 62 and so on. I sat on Code Enforcement Board before I came on to council, was one of the things I did. And while I was on the Code Enforcement Board and before I got on council, one of the things that was reiterated to me time again and again and again till the point it was hammered in my head that I would never forget it, is that we had a code enforcement guy here, and the city, the residents were totally upset with a guy that we had that was doing proactive enforcement. That he created more hate and discontent in this city than any other city official in the history of Satellite Beach. To the point they couldn't wait to get rid of him, because the city residents were so upset over our proactive, dedicated code enforcement officer. Now, that's just happened in the last few years. So it puzzles me a little bit to say that now all of a sudden people are saying, where's our proactive, we want our guy to be here to enforce all these rules. But yet, there was a time frame there, like I said, where people were ready to run people out of town because of the proactive code enforcement we were doing. So then, that went away. And again, as I was on Code Enforcement Board and when I come on a council, even residents that have been told they're breaking rules or whatever, everybody says it's a much better environment, that things are better, that the people we have in the building department stuff that go out and talk to these people and say, hey, there's a problem here, can you please fix that? I know as code enforcement, I don't know how many times we've actually had to fine people or take them to magistrate and stuff, which I think is probably next to nothing, because we don't really ever hear about that. So that's the only thing I can say. It just kind of puzzled me at that point, like I said, because I heard about it. We seemed to solve the problem. And now it sounds like people are saying, oh, that guy wasn't so bad. We want him back. It just kind of confuses me.
Mark, just one last thing. John and Courtney, I'm glad to hear you bring out the fact that our police officers have been involved in this process as well. I think that's, I mean, I've seen them from a number of instances that I've been involved with, get involved, and it really works out well, too. But they're kind of those people that you never hear about. They're involved in this process. They kind of direct it and make it work pretty well. So, you know, kudos, ladies and gentlemen.
If they see an RV in the right-of-way, they will stop right there.
Oh,
They never let that sit,
And I
because
don't-
we can't get emergency vehicles passed, and they know that.
Yeah,
So
and-
they make sure that that doesn't happen, if
I-
they see it, but they have to see it.
Yeah, and I think that you guys don't get recognitions for that, so thank you for being a part of this process, because that just kind of slid in real quietly, but I mean, from personal experience, I know you guys are there, so, guys and gals, so thank you, John and Courtney.
You know, Mark, I might want to add one thing. We went back and looked at 1 year from yesterday, one year back, and we have closed 464 code enforcement cases. So it's not that we're not doing code enforcement. It's really a question of priority. You know, it's no different than any other department. You know, we all got too much to do. So you start at the top and then you work your way down. What we don't always get down to is some of the stuff that we're talking to tonight. But we're very actively out there doing code enforcement.
Get it.
One thing to Jim, since we're going to be redefining RVs, you are going to look at this when we get it. Commissioner, thank you. Okay.
I do want to say one thing. We had a meeting prior to this for our community redevelopment agency, and we keep saying budget isn't an issue, but budget is partially an issue for me, and we're looking to receive the amount of 40% of our public works department decrease in tax revenue in the next year because of something that's going to be coming on the ballot, which we'll go through because we all want to have a tax break on our homes. It's around $600,000 less a year we'll be getting next year. And because of that, we are no longer going to be able to do the Pelican Beach Clubhouse redesign as we plan on doing. We're not going to be able to do the Gemini Park. And this is kind of a big deal. I mean, if you were to ask me as a resident, not as a council member, do you want to pay the salary? And obviously, the price difference is huge between the two. Do I want to take funds and dedicate them towards a code enforcement officer, or would I like those funds to go to a park or to the clubhouse where people could get married and enjoy our beautiful beaches or whatever. I'm going to pick, and maybe other people's priorities are different, but I'm going to pick, I'd much rather see it go to something like that to help make our city better. And, I mean, this is going to be a big hit that we're going to take. And, yeah, we do have a general fund, and I don't know about you guys, but, you know, $600,000 is a lot of money. So that's just what I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, further comments, Lenore?
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Excuse me. What are you voting on? Who's it? We're voting on to authority the staff to develop a recommended code amendment on the recreation of vehicles and implement education enforcement strategy for boats, recreation vehicles, and trailers. This is going to be brought to the P&Z.
And then back to council.
And then back to council. This is a long way from being over. It's going to have at least 2 readings with us, and I'm sure the P&Z will be going through it for a while. So it's not out of sight, out of mind after tonight by a long shot, I can assure you that. It never is on any ordinance that comes to us. It has been vetted through boards generally first, and then at least 2 times here at council. And I can assure you that the city manager, before it ever comes to us the first time, has been gone over with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that what we're voting on is good for the city. I can assure you that. Don's been at it long enough. Mark, the process doesn't go tonight, it's done, okay? Okay, any further discussion?
Continue.
Continue, please.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes. We've been at this for an hour and 25 minutes. Mark has asked for a break. Can we take a 5-minute break, and we're only coming back for 5 minutes worth of thing. Everyone, thank you very much for your input.
Ready?
Okay, everybody ready? Okay, reconvene the council meeting. Moving on to agenda item 12, just a notice of cancellation of our August 16th meeting. We have Florida League of Cities. That starts actually that morning.
Yes.
Okay, everybody should have got your packet from Lenore?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 13, which is appointments to boards. Let's see here, we have a new appointment and a reappointment.
I'll make a motion to appoint Paul Rosenberg to the Sustainability Board.
Motion by Councilman Montanaro.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Osmer. Discussion? Hearing none? Lenore?
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Thank you. Mike Chase?
The next one is basically, Mike has already been appointed by the police and fire to this board. This is a ministerial appointment by council. So I'll make a motion to ministerially appoint Mike Chase to the unexpired term ending 7/24/18, which was Bill Mayer's seat on that board.
I have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, second by Breimer. Discussion? Hearing none? Lenore?
Councilwoman Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 14, minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 19, 2017.
Second.
A motion by Vice Mayor Osmer, fastly seconded by Councilwoman Gibson. Lenore?
Councilman Breimer?
Yes.
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gibson?
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
I did my job.
Yes,
Sorry,
motion
Lee.
passes. Before we go, thank you, everybody, for your professionalism on that issue of the votes. I appreciate the time and effort everybody put into it, and I know the staff will work hard to make sure it works. So, thank you, everybody. Dominic, thank you, and Courtney, good work. Any further business before council? Hearing none, meeting is adjourned.
Does anybody have a wheelbarrow? Crap, I was